I want to congratulate you and to thank you for coming us.
Thank you.
Mr. Nnamdi Kanu.
Thank you. Yes.
From Biafra.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We will shortly tell the story of how did you happen to come here. But let's talk a little bit about your people story in Biafra. How many people there consider themselves Jewish, and how did it manifest itself?
Biafra in total has about a population of, say, 70 million people scattered all over the world. As you know, they've called us the wandering Jews of Africa. But those that identify themselves with their Jewish heritage is nearly about 50 million people.
15 million people?
50 million people.
Do they practice Judaism? They practice Judaism?
A significant number of them practice Judaism.
In what way?
In terms of their prayers, in terms of the Torah that they read, in terms of the kippah and the talit they used to pray, in terms of their recitation of their prayers, is a very significant segment of the population that actually practice it as we do, or most of us do in IPOB. The problem is that when IPOB is the indigenous people of Biafra, is this umbrella movement all over the world that is pursuing the emancipation of Biafra from Nigeria. So what's been happening is that when Christianity came with colonialism, a lot of our Jewish heritage was suppressed. We were made to feel ashamed of our Jewishness, so to speak. But luckily and fortunately for us, a lot of people bravely maintain that very tradition and culture till this very day. If you go to Umweri in Anambra State, it is there. All over the world, it is there. And even the Encyclopedia Britannica of 1929 mentioned it quite specifically that the Igbos are the Jews of Africa, because all the traditions you have from circumcision to everything that you can think of in the book of Leviticus, we're talking about
the Igbo nation, the Igbo people.
Yes.
Not all of them are Jewish, right? Not all the Igbos are Jewish, or they are.
They are all Jewish. The problem is that with the influence and influx of Christianity as a result of colonialism, a lot of that was dampened down. What happened was a lot of our emphasis was moved away from the Torah, the Old Testament, to the New Testament. But because the Old Testament still contained aspects of our tradition and our culture, we accepted the Bible as it was given to us.
Okay, we have a short clip showing you guys in Biafra in your Judaism way of life here.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Oh, say shalom. 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 Hallelujah.
It's the sound, centuries of Colonial, returning to what they say are their native roots. A place
quite fascinating.
Very, very fascinating.
Now I want to look at the map of Biafra and Nigeria, and maybe this map tells a little bit of the story. So actually, you guys in Biafra, what are you struggling for? What is your aim in your struggle? Why there is such a confrontation between you and the authorities?
Because we want to go back to where we were before the British came. Most of our problems was basically made by the British. The way Nigeria was put together is the root cause of the problem.
I'm talking about these days. Okay, there was a war, and Biafra was kind of independence between 1967 and 1970, I guess.
That's correct, yes.
And since then, it's part of Nigeria. What do you want? You want an independence state of Biafra? You want to be a Jewish state? You want kind of autonomy? What did you like? What do we want?
We want
an
independent Jewish state, a Biafran state that is absolutely independent of anything to do with Nigeria, for the simple reason that we were independent before the British came.
But you want to be a Jewish state?
Absolutely. To go back to a way of life, there's a place called Arochukwu where we come from. The same way you have Jerusalem. The same way you have the temple in Jerusalem, we had one in Arochukwu, the same thing. So we want to go back to that way of life, to worshipping the one and only true God that we know.
Is there anyone within the Israeli establishment that recognize you as a Jewish people?
Absolutely. I'm sure that during the time of...
I'm just interrupting you. This is you praying at the Western Wall at the Kotel.
Absolutely, yes. Okay. Yes. I prayed there also in the year 2013 when I came to Israel.
So coming back to my question about the recognition by Israel to your Jewish way of life, or to your Jewish heritage?
Our Jewish heritage.
Yeah.
And our way of life, yes. Isaac Rabin made some statements about that. Also, Henry Kissinger, the former United States Secretary of State, also made some comments about it as well. If you go to the Nixon papers regarding the Biafran War, it's all there, very clearly spelled out. But I think there seems to be this kind of paranoia that should Biafra get closer to Israel, that 70 million people will somehow flock to the land of Israel. But that is not the case. We are seeking Biafra so we can return to Biafra and be in Biafra.
Let's go back to your personal story.
Yes.
You have been persecuted or arrested in Biafra. What was the story about?
I arrived in Nigeria, in Lagos, on the 14th of October 2015, and I was arrested from London. I was arrested for demanding for freedom for my people, because I run Radio Biafra in London, and the authorities didn't like it. Then I had to go down to, I had to go home basically to see my people, and they arrested me and kept me locked away for 19 months.
19 months?
Yes, despite 2 court judgments to set me free. They took me to court, and the court...
More than a year and a half in custody?
Absolutely.
And then what happened?
Trial. And then they eventually granted me bail with very stringent conditions. When I came out, I continued to speak to my people. I continued to practice my Judaism, my Jewish faith. And one day they came to my house to kill me. The Nigerian army came to my house to kill me.
What was it like? I mean,
I wouldn't wish anybody to go through it. They killed 28 people in the process.
how many?
28 people died.
By the attempt to kill you.
To kill me, they killed 28 people.
How come they killed 28 people and they didn't get to you?
Because my people evacuated me before they could get to my bedroom.
And then you flew away?
Then they took me away and smuggled me out of Nigeria. I needed some time to recover, which I did, and then I had to make my way to Israel.
I see you are very excited.
I wouldn't call it excitement. I would say relief that I managed to make it to the only place that I feel safe in the whole world. I could have gone back to England, but I still don't feel safe to go back to England. That's why I stayed in Israel.
Okay, we're approaching the end of this conversation. Do you have any expectation from Israel government, from the Israeli society?
Yes, it is to live up to the obligations to defend Judaism and Jewish faith all over the world. We are being persecuted. We are suffering as a people. And it is the responsibility, I believe, moral responsibility of Israel to make sure that Biafra stands as an independent entity in Africa.
Nnamdi Kanu from the Igbo people in Biafra. I want to thank you so much for this conversation and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
On a personal level. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Most Nigerians are either Christian or Muslim, but in a corner of southeast Nigeria, some members of the Igbo tribe keep kosher, pray in synagogues, and celebrate Jewish holidays, which makes them Jewish, right? Well, depends on who you ask. Under traditional Jewish law, Jews are those who were born to a Jewish mother or have formally converted to Judaism. And yet, many Nigerians see the Igbo as Jewish regardless of what they practice or believe. As for the Igbo themselves, well, they're split. Some identify as Jews, others don't. So who's right? And why is Igbo identity so complicated? The Igbo people have lived in what we now call Nigeria for thousands of years. They're known for their sophisticated metalwork and glassmaking techniques, not to mention a unique banking system that's still in use today. Plus, they have been practicing a form of democracy for centuries. Until European Christian missionaries showed up in the 19th century, the Igbo practiced a traditional religion they called Omenana. Some of their customs included circumcising their sons, offering burnt sacrifices, and undergoing various purification rituals. The most uncommon of these rituals involves sending a goat out into the wilderness to carry away the community's sins, which will become relevant in a minute. You'll find similar customs throughout Africa. So, what makes the Igbo unique? Well, according to the anthropologist Dr. Daniel Liss, a lot. Dr. Liss began studying the Igbo after a chance encounter with an Igbo man at a bar in Switzerland. And he points out that some Igbo customs have an unusual twist.
Circumcision is quite widespread in Africa. That doesn't prove anything. But then you could say, okay, what's the date the circumcision is performed? Circumcision on the 8th day is right there in the first sources on the Igbo.
Plus, remember that whole sending a goat out into the desert to carry away sins? Well, that sounds a lot like an ancient Israelite custom. Ever heard of scapegoats? That's where the concept comes from. So are these overlapping practices merely a coincidence? Or do they indicate an ancient connection? Long before they knew of the Igbo's existence, many Jews and Christians believed that Africa might be home to a hidden pocket of Israelites. Why? The Talmud claims that some portions of the 10 lost tribes ended up in Africa. Plus, the biblical book of Zephaniah states that dispersed Israelites will return from beyond the rivers of Cush. So when the British Empire sent expeditions up the River Niger, the UK's chief rabbis handed colonial authorities a pack of letters written in Hebrew, just in case they happened to encounter any tribes of Israel. To our knowledge, they didn't find anyone who spoke Hebrew, but they did find something interesting. The British, who set up shop in parts of West Africa, brought along Christian missionaries to teach locals about the Bible, which records the story of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And as the Igbo were learning about and even converting to Christianity, they referred to themselves as descendants of the ancient Israelites. They recognized their customs in the customs of the Hebrew Bible. British missionaries loved this. It supported their narrative that Christianity is the natural evolution of Judaism. But had the Igbo always identified this way? Or did this identification start once the Brits showed up? Like everything to do with the Igbo, depends who you ask. Traditional Igbo leaders will tell you that their people have always identified as descendants of the tribe of God.
So when I was growing up in Nigeria, everybody proudly said, oh yes, Igbos came from Israel, the land of Israel. It was a common knowledge. We all said it loudly. We didn't care who said about it.
Most academics disagree, believing this connection only started after the British arrived. Either way, one thing is indisputable. By the late 1800s, leading Igbo intellectuals were writing at length about their connection to the ancient Israelites. Though most Igbo practiced Christianity, some began to take an interest in Judaism. But like stereotypical Jews, they all took a different approach. Some mixed Christian and Jewish rituals with their ancestral traditions, forming the Sabbatharian movement. Some went back to their ancestral religion, Omenana, which they believed to be biblical Judaism. And then, Rabbinic Judaism came to Igbo land.
We have a rabbi!
That is the form of Judaism that most Jews practice today. You know, lighting Hanukkah candles, holding Passover seders, praying in synagogues, and rocking out to the Miami Boys Choir. Okay, maybe that's just me. And so, some Igbo began incorporating Rabbinic Jewish rituals into their practice, while others embraced it full on. So let's recap, because things are about to get wild. Many Igbo identify with an ancient Israelite origin. Of these, only a tiny minority actually practices Rabbinic Judaism. So only that tiny minority identifies as Jewish, right? Not so fast. There's one more complication in the mix.
The moment the British entered the picture in the Igbo history, in Nigeria, in the evolvement of the Nigerian state, the British bring along their kind of anti-Semitism.
Now, hate isn't specific to any one culture. Every society has its prejudices and scapegoats. Yes, that's a callback. Now, historically, different ethnic groups in Nigeria had minimal contact with one another. Each group had their own system of government. But in 1900, the British turned Nigeria into a colony, which brought each of Nigeria's ethnic groups into competition for power and opportunities. And when different groups compete for resources, trouble is sure to follow. The Igbo were a highly successful ethnic minority with unique cultural practices, which opened them up to a lot of hatred. The Brits gave this hatred a new language, a new set of tropes and stereotypes. So as the Igbo left their homeland in search of opportunities, they encountered a form of prejudice that looked a lot like anti-Semitism. Because anti-Semitism, unlike other forms of hatred, is rooted in conspiracy theories about a small group of people pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
The image that the Igbo are money-loving people, very greedy and domineering, it's a conspiracy theories,
Sound familiar? It's basically lifted from the anti-Semites playbook. Anti-Semites don't care how you identify. They don't care if you're religious, if you're on the right or the left. They don't even care if other Jews accept you as Jewish or not, because anti-Semitism isn't rational.
When I was growing up in Nigeria, it became a thing that your parents will call into the bedroom and tell you, look, remember, no matter how much of the other language you think you speak or you think you can identify as them, they all know you're Igbo first. And second, we come from Israel. They don't like you as an Igbo person, and they know that we come from Israel. Mind how you walk.
Nigeria achieved independence in 1960. It was a moment of hope for all its people who were tired of British rule. But establishing a post-colonial country is never easy, and the instability brought with it terrible anti-Igbo violence.
The Igbo were purged from the military, from everywhere, from government positions, from universities, outside of Igbo land. So in order to survive, really, millions of Igbo had to go back to the southeast.
So it didn't matter whether the Igbo saw themselves as descendants of ancient Israelites. It didn't matter if most of them actually practiced Christianity. And it definitely didn't matter if Jews outside of Nigeria accepted them as Jewish. As far as they were concerned, they were being violently attacked for tropes that looked and felt like Jew hatred. Just like the Jewish people, the Igbo found themselves fleeing back to their native homeland to escape persecution. And just like the Jewish people, they wanted to be the masters of their own destinies. So in 1967, they did something that the Nigerian government really didn't like. They seceded, establishing an independent country called Biafra.
This wish for independence of the southeast of the Biafra, that was because of the massacres, because they just feared for their lives, and that's why they said we need our own state.
But like we just said, trying to establish an independent country isn't always a smooth process. For 3 years, Nigeria and Biafra were locked in a hideous conflict. Nigerian forces massacred hundreds of thousands of Biafran civilians, and many more were starved to death. The state of Biafra was defeated, and the Igbo were forcefully reintegrated into Nigeria and reduced to poverty. Non-Igbo Nigerians call this period the Nigerian Civil War. Many Igbo call it the Biafran genocide. It was just one more point of identification between Igbo and Jews. Again, it didn't matter if the Igbo identified as Jewish, or as ancient Israelites, or as Christians, or as Sabbatharians, or something else entirely. Jews around the world sympathized deeply with their plight. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel spoke out on their behalf.
So I remember when I saw for the first time children of Biafra, hungry. I didn't sleep. I tried everything I could really around me, and to write articles and call up people and organize activities to send food to those children.
Several Jewish organizations appealed to the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee for aid, testifying that, quote, "We cannot be silent in the face of the deliberate destruction of human life in Biafra." In a White House memo to President Nixon, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger described the Igbo as the wandering Jews of West Africa, gifted, aggressive, westernized, at best envied and resented, but mostly despised by their neighbors in the Federation. But here's the thing. Antisemitism doesn't define Judaism. Our identity is thousands of years old. We know where we come from. We know who we are. The same is true for the Igbo. Their identity isn't defined by their persecutors or by the people who hate them. It's defined by their roots, by their history.
Denial of the Israelite or the Jewish or the Hebrew identity or the Igbo identity is never ever going to be a solution to anti-Semitism. I believe that the solution will be identifying with who you are and then facing the problem squarely.
Many, though not all, Igbo identify as descendants of ancient Israelites. But that doesn't mean they see themselves as Jews, even if they practice some customs that are considered Jewish. For most Igbo, circumcising their sons on the 8th day or getting married under a canopy are cultural rather than religious customs, a homage to their ancient lineage. That's why so many Igbo integrate Jewish customs into their lives, even as they practice Christianity.
Every Igbo, including even the guy in the Vatican that is a cardinal, lives by traditions that Jews will recognize as Israelite traditions.
I think that's really cool, because unlike missionary groups like Jews for Jesus, they have no interest in replacing Judaism or converting other Jews. As long as we both respect each other's boundaries, our shared customs are a beautiful source of solidarity and allyship. I accidentally stumbled into an Igbo gathering in Atlanta recently. When I told the organizers I'm from Israel, they got excited. They even told me, "Hey, our ancestors are from there. We love Israel." It was a really nice moment of warmth in a world that doesn't always welcome Jews. But do all Jews welcome the Igbo? Especially the thousands of Igbo living in Nigeria who identify as Jewish and practice Rabbinic Judaism? These Igbo have taught themselves to read and pray in Hebrew. Their prayer services look almost exactly like Orthodox Jewish services around the world.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad.
All we want is just recognition. just recognition. We want to be able to walk into any synagogue and be welcomed and seen as a brother, as a sister.
In fact, hundreds of Igbo have even moved to Israel, where they proudly send their children to serve in the IDF. But their status there is complicated. After coming to Israel, they formally converted to Judaism through an Orthodox rabbinical court. And yet, due to internal politics, the state refused to recognize them as Jewish. Such incidents have led to a feeling of profound isolation among Igbo in Israel.
My first son has completed his service in the IDF. My second son, Joel, is currently serving in the IDF. And there are so many others. Basically, I would like the Igbo Jewish community in Israel to be accorded their pride of place among all the Jewish people here in Israel.
Whether in Nigeria or Israel, the minority of Igbo that practices Judaism is in a very tough position. In reclaiming their ancient identity, they've done all they can to learn about rabbinic Jewish practices. But mainstream Jewish authorities won't accept them as is unless they formally convert, in some cases, for a second time. Though some rabbis in both Israel and America are challenging this idea and are starting to build a relationship with Igbo communities. So, are the Igbo Jewish? It's such a complicated question. History has linked Igbo and Jewish identities in uncanny ways. We are connected by shared customs and experiences, including a history of survival in the face of persecution. Identities evolve over time, but the Jewish people and the Igbo, no matter how they identify, remain firmly rooted in the ancient traditions that have sustained us for millennia.
Then sell the slogan, One Nigeria. Inside the One Nigeria, a lot of division, both for states, for community, villages, tradition, culture, everything. Divide. Everybody will feel divide within one divide. If he say when he divide them, he go benefit from the division. All right, like now I tell you, say for the same states, there is no unity. Like waiting the before Kaduna State Governor's son, when he go tweet during the time where some people for Twitter they tweet, they talk. It can't be very, very insultive as a prominent person picking for the country. Then they talk about the killing for Kaduna. Now so you insult somebody, say it is your stupid mother that is an elephant. And southern Kaduna resident will keep seeing shaggy if they continue to attack indigenous Fulani headsmen, Ulushi. Now waiting here right. Now they don't interpret what in be shaggy. They say shaggy na severe suffering, punishment. Automatically, then they allege now say he endorse waiting they happen. Now he don't come out, can't apologize. But make we assume say na poor man picking write this thing. Say then link am now say he's in support with the Kaputin way headsmen, the Kaput people for southern Kaduna. Where you think say that poor man picking good day. But for now, till this moment, if you are seen don't tender apology, where people they tell us say make you leave your apology, we no want. Yes. Nothing, no security agency, nobody don't even call them, question them. You dey say, say some animals are more equal than some. Now animal farm we dey. True. Today, we go still enter that map. You know, say from the amalgamation, the days of amalgamation, we get Southern Protectorate and Northern Protectorate. Then come join them together. Because of this same division, then come out waiting and they call Middle Belt. Now, North Day, South Day, Middle Belt Day. So how one section can't take collect the whole Middle Belt? Now the question where they ask, where I want make una answer. One section collect the whole Middle Belt, say na then get them. But why is it Middle Belt? She be na road. Now they divide two villages. So you see where this village stop here. Road. After that road, you cross that road, you go see the other village. So now the Middle Belt be like road. Another region, they claim ownership. When you do censor, the same thing. We could spend billions. They will give us some kind of numbers we will not understand. Today, make we talk about that middle belt. Is it correct? Say a section collected the middle belt, say na then get them. The middle belt they here, left and right. And people they left and right. It can't dey for middle. And they come back.
All right, so what do you think? Please do well to drop your comment on the comment section what you think about this video. All right, thank you. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you and God bless you.